Hey, what's going on, everybody? On today's show, the Stargate Project launches, but is it enough to keep America in the lead for the race for AGI? We got DeepSeek R1 has been released, and people are wondering if it's the true O1 competitor at significantly less cost. We have Perplexity pushes with their API, Meta and Oakley are together, OpenAI and Microsoft have renewed their vows, Anthropic uses its voice, and a lot more AI news to come on today's show. So this is the Daily AI Show. Today is January 22nd, 2025. And because it's Wednesday, that means we get a chance to look back at all of our most interesting topics, news stories that came out over the last 7 days. With me, I have Andy and Beth, and I think this is going to be a fun show. Now, Andy, if you're okay with it, I do have some. I'm gonna start with a much smaller news story here, only because I want to have something. I feel like I'm going to help you today, Andy. You and I have been mostly us. Beth has been helping in the back, and I can, you know what? I can see that your energy might be waning a little bit, Andy. It's early there. Sun's not up yet, and so I feel like I have something to help you. So what this is about is like this, the news story is that actually ChatGPT, and I missed this until I was researching this morning, that they kind of did a nice little update to their custom instructions, which I was shocked about because that's not something I would have expected with memory and everything else for OpenAI to put more time and attention to. Now, they didn't do a ton. If you go to your little drop down underneath your initials in ChatGPT and you click on customize ChatGPT, you now have what should ChatGPT call you? What do you do? What traits should ChatGPT have? But they now also have little click buttons for like things like chatty, witty, opinionated, straight shooting, Gen Z, these kind of things. These are buttons, but you can also write in the text prompt. And then anything else that ChatGPT should know about you. So for me, I always say I don't want all the fluff, right? I just want the answer. So I don't want ChatGPT to be like, you're absolutely right, Brian. That's such a great point, Brian. Like, cut all that out. I just get to the answer, like nip it in the butt. So I put things in there to help me be more straightforward and all that. So I wanted to test this out a little bit and see if it brought in some of this. So I said, okay, listen, pretend you're a football coach. You're tasked with helping Andy get motivated. Now, Beth, you're here too, so you can use a little of this energy for the daily. You're getting ready for the Daily AI Show today. Today, we're covering all the interesting AI news for the last 7 days. Help me out here. So are you ready, Andy, for me to get you in the mindset for the next 35, 40 minutes of AI news? Okay, here it goes. And I'm going to pull this over my screen so I can look forward a little bit. All right, listen up, Andy. Huddle in tight because I'm about to light a fire under you that makes the fourth quarter of a championship game feel like a nap in the shade. Today's not just another episode of the Daily AI Show. No, sir. This is your gridiron, your battlefield, your platform to dominate. AI news is coming at you like a blitz, fast, fierce, and relentless. But you're the QB of this operation. You've got the vision, the plays, and the passion to lead your team down a field to victory. The last 7 days have been a highlight reel of jaw-dropping breakthroughs and edge-of-your-seat developments in AI. Your audience, they're out there hungry for your energy, your insight, your game plan to help them tackle this fast-moving technology revolution. They've tuned in because they know you deliver. When the mic goes live, I want you to channel your inner Vince Lombardi. Drop knowledge bombs like you're throwing Hail Mary passes one after the other. Engage your co-hosts like you're orchestrating the perfect 2-minute drill. And when it's time to wrap up, hit them with some closing spikes with the ball so hard, it leaves a crater in their minds. You're not just hosting a podcast, Andy. You're giving a pep talk to the AI world. You're a leader they turn to, the coach that shows them the plays, and the motivator that makes them believe they can run through walls with AI by their side. No, go out there on the field. You've got the playbook, the team, the heart of the champion. Blow that whistle and let's make some AI history today. Let's go, baby. Are you fired up? Let's hear it.
Put me in, coach. Put me in.
So let's use that energy now. Andy, what is the first thing you want to talk about today for the news? Bring it. I'm ready.
Okay, well, it's not the biggest thing, but I just want to follow on with a weave from what you were just talking about, which is custom instructions are all about creating a personalization of the AI that's sensitive to who you are, what you are, how you speak, all of those things. And by the way, OpenAI may have done that, but Anthropic is planning to release a memory feature that allows you to remember your past conversations. And this is a key component of actually creating an AI assistant that knows you and knows how to work with you. So
yeah, 100%.
And the competition's tough out there, but we can meet it.
I 1,000% agree. Look, we've all been waiting for a better, longer memory, something that spans different chats, something that's a little bit better than the memory that OpenAI have, which, let's be honest, throws a lot of stuff in memory that shouldn't be in there. And as a consultant, man, it's the worst because it pulls in stuff about clients and I'm always eating the memory out.
Custom instructions require that you think about it and you put in there, and
Correct.
you can kind of design what you want the AI to do. But you can also, if you have an assistant that has clear memory of your past conversations, you can also ask it to, let's focus on these aspects of your memory.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be an articulation of how that is expressed in how the AI assistant represents you and or interacts with you.
100%. And look, I was just talking to clients yesterday. I was so proud of one of my clients. I won't go too off on a tangent here because I want to get there are some really big news stories to get to. But you just had those moments where clients, and we had a meeting and they were just crushing it with what they were building with AI. And they had so many questions and so many new ideas. And they were like, oh, some of my team is using Perplexity and Claude, which, warms my heart because a lot of frankly, what I talk to when I talk to sales teams and stuff is talking about just ChatGPT, which is amazing in itself. I love that we have teams out there that are sales teams that are using ChatGPT. When I hear people are like, well, this person's using Claude for this and Perplexity for that. But one of the things we were talking about is creating content. And I can imagine if we can just get a memory to the point where, hey, I'm creating content with Claude. We all sort of agree that Claude writes some really beautiful content. But it has a memory of maybe what I've talked about previously. If you're doing that for like LinkedIn posts or blog posts or whatever, man, that'd be so valuable to just be able to know that you could rely on it. And it said, yeah, you know what? You did bring up this conversation 2 weeks ago, but I'd already forgotten that I talked about it. But it knew, and it brought that back in and said, well, do you want to hit it from a different angle? To have sort of that helper AI in that sense would be really, really cool. Now, another Anthropic story really quick. Also not huge, but Anthropic said that they are coming out with two-way voice mode. So another cool feature. We've seen this obviously with things like ChatGPT. I think Gemini also has two-way voice, but we haven't necessarily seen this with Claude. But I'm here for it. I'm actually really looking forward to having full conversations with Claude back and forth. If it's at least at the level of advanced voice mode with ChatGPT, that's a great feature add-on from Anthropic. I also just love how thoughtful I feel like Anthropic is with their choices of new additions and things like that. There always seems to be a lot of care and thought behind their decision making. It's not just willy-nilly. They don't give the impression, I'm sure they need to, they don't get the impression that they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. I always feel like Anthropic has their North Star and they stay to it, which I just really admire as a company. Now they have to raise money. They have to compete in a very competitive environment, but I do admire them for what they've done so far.
I agree. Like if we think about the main companies that we're used to who drop things, right? OpenAI is like 3/4 of the way there and just wants to expand its alpha test pool by making it public and letting us do things with it. And then we get like how it really functions a couple weeks later. I have no idea what Google's decision process is because that is like, why all of the questions. But Anthropic and Apple may have already done this. I'm a recent Apple convert, but Anthropic seems to drop things when they're ready, right? Like if it comes out from Anthropic, it feels like, yes, it does very much like what they want. In fact, if you remember when they dropped their prompt generator, they dropped it as a collab notebook first. So that like you could use it, you could test it, you could do it in that environment. And then they built the framework around it. So now you could do it on the console. Like I really appreciate their attention to what it's like to use their stuff. And it's very nice.
It's hype free. Like if you think of OpenAI and what they're doing to PR their way to, dominance, Anthropic's the opposite. It's like no hype, but incredibly competent platform development. And I just really like the culture of Claude. Remember just even yesterday, Replit, which built this agent platform to help you code, it actually added Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet as the assistant. And now you have a choice between those two. I've chosen to use Claude because it makes fewer errors than did their multi-agent platform. So, Claude's really, making some progress. Let me mention the top three. The three players out there, in my view, and we're a different perspective. We're not an enterprise and so on, but the people who are using AI intensively, they use OpenAI, they use Anthropic's Claude, and they use Perplexity. And Perplexity just announced that their Sonar models are now accessible via API.
Yes.
And that means that developers can start to use the sort of leading search-based citation, rich platform that Perplexity is in application development.
Yeah, and let me talk on that really quick. Is one of the projects I'm definitely working on heavily through what I do at Scaled is a project that's leaning on Perplexity's API. Now, we made decisions to use that a while ago because of the type of answers we were trying to get back and stuff like that. So when I saw that come out, that was actually not only like news, that was actually directly directly relatable to what I'm actually working on. In fact, I probably right after the show, I haven't had a chance to do it yet. I will be copying that news article and sharing it with a team internally, talking about, hey, the next thing we need to do is do side-by-side comparisons. And it's going to be me. But what I'm going to tell you I'm going to do is, as long as they're available through Make, in other words, I can connect to the APIs. I mean, you already can, but these Sonar and Sonar Pro, I want to do side-by-side comparisons because the cost has come down. But what I want to see is, do I need Sonar or do I need Sonar Pro in order to get the deeper level citations and research, which is a really, really big deal. I mean, across the board, but in sales, when we're talking about doing prospect research, when we want to do deep dives into companies, when I'm trying to help sales teams just get the absolute best, most important nuggets about somebody they're about to jump on a call on, we want speed, we want efficiency, but we want deep. We don't want surface level personalization. We want deep insights that are going to connect value props to pain points. And I just really believe in what Perplexity is doing. So I will be today probably, and I'll report back as I learn more, but I will be putting Sonar and Sonar Pro side by side and comparing them against some stuff that I've already built as custom GPTs. So I'm super looking forward to that. That's a big one for me, for sure.
Sounds like an upcoming show.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. One little thing about Perplexity also is that there was a little bit of news that probably got, washed away by all of the other talk about TikTok, but Perplexity formally delivered to ByteDance a proposition that Perplexity and TikTok US merge as a way of getting around the ban. And that would be a really great step. I'm personally skeptical that it could ever happen because it wouldn't benefit Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been like, all right, let's just talk about that really quick. But then I'm going to throw to you, Andy, to talk about DeepSeek, because that's one of our big stories today. We're also definitely going to talk about Stargate. I see you in the comments, Jude, and stuff like that. We're talking about Stargate. We're talking about the portal to other planets. We're doing it like the old show used to be for anybody that remembers the Stargate show. Okay, really quick. So I'm going to throw this into the some news because it came out from President Trump in the last day. And he's been floating this idea over the next 90 days that what he's talking about with TikTok is, hey, if they're a potential 1 trillion company, I think this is a very Donald Trump answer to this, but I say that they're worth $1 trillion if they have the US and they're worth 0 if they don't have the US. So we'll give them the keys to the castle and that's potentially worth 500 billion. It should be a done deal, right? So that's what he's publicly out there saying. Support it, don't support it, whatever. I think it's a very him answer to it, and we will see over the next 90 days. But here's something that will go in the rumor category, but I'm curious about. TikTok went down on Saturday night at about 11 o'clock, at least my time, and then was down until my daughter told me about it noon the next day. Dad, did you know TikTok was back up? Whatever it was. So, oh, really? I said, that took less time than I thought because I was guessing 1 to 2 days, but I was sure TikTok was coming back. One of the things that started floating around, and I'm not a big conspiracy or rumor thing, but people were talking about how they think that it might have switched over to Facebook, aka Meta's servers. And there might be some work that's already been done there because as developers were getting on TikTok and saying, hey, this is about how long you would have to put down servers in order to make a move or switch. And then there was a lot of people talking about how they felt their For You pages had changed and stuff like that. This could all be hearsay and rumor or whatever, but it's very interesting. What I'm curious to hear is when this all shakes out, whenever that is with TikTok, do we find out that something actually has already happened and we're just not aware of it yet? And so President Trump's saying what President Trump is going to say, but We know that Mark Zuckerberg was recently down at Mar-a-Lago. We know there's been a lot of conversations. Mark Zuckerberg, Meta just put out their things about how they're making adjustments to their DEI. I'm not so sure that there's not more connected here, and we just don't know about it publicly. So totally rooted in that. Not really news, but anyway.
I think that's saucy. I don't think that's the reality. I think it's a very simple thing. Trump said, I'll give you the extension if you go ahead and shut it down so that everybody sees that this is for real.
Sure. Yeah.
And when you come back up, I want my name on the announcement.
Yeah, thank me for
that's what happened.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Right.
Also, just to say that the ban itself was about a TikTok's app in the iPhone store, in the App Store. It is banned. You cannot find the app.
You still can, yeah.
In the App Store.
I didn't
TikTok's response to the ban was cool. We'll just take down the U.S. servers and bummer for y'all, and that came back up. So the ban is actually still in effect. Like, it did come through. It is banned.
Yeah, the law is real. The law is not something that he can, eliminate. They have to find a solution that meets the terms of the law.
Right. Yeah, through the Supreme Court and all that stuff. So, okay. Lots to go. Let's go to DeepSeek. So, Andy, I'm going to throw to you on this, or Beth would jump in as you like. There was a lot of news about DeepSeek R1. So, Andy, tell us what that means, where that name came from, because I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really have DeepSeek on my radar recently. So this is sort of news to me too. So what did you?
Well, we actually we had some discussions on the show recently about DeepSeek v3, which was a benchmark like frontier model that's open source, and this is from a Chinese company, DeepSeek. And what this is all about is China really in the race of major LLMs with the United States, and China, despite all of the major investments that are being made here, and against the export restrictions on GPUs available to train, China coming forward with parity or superior models, open sourcing them, making them cheaper and easier to access, and basically democratizing access to the state of the art, which is advanced reasoning models like O3. Right. And now it's not DeepSeek's new model R1 is not matching O3 yet, but they demonstrated a method that allowed it to, at a very low cost in terms of training relative to OpenAI's O1 model, which is the most capable currently available reasoning model. They developed this model R1 at a fraction of the cost and are charging a fraction, 1/30 of the API cost of O1. And so China's really, they're not just nipping at the heels, they're clearly in the race. And despite all the ways that the United States has attempted to restrict their capacity and their ability to make those advances, they did this with innovative ways. So we mentioned this on the show before about how, hey, yeah, even in AI model training, if you create a resource restriction, then the model will figure out how to advance around those resource constrictions and become more efficient. Well, that's what China's doing in the face of these export restrictions and so on. So this is all about Chinese models challenging and actually matching and exceeding the very best efforts that are happening right now in the United States in all of the various companies that are working. Okay, so what they did was, go ahead, Beth.
No. I was just keep going. I thought you were moving on to another story.
No. It's basically R1 was built on top of the DeepSeek v3 model, but they did some trickery that's in the paper that they released. So they just basically revealed everything that they do, unlike OpenAI, which keeps all of their methods secret, right? They revealed how to do this, and they trained the model to meet the O1 capabilities in reasoning, and I can't summarize it in my head even right now how they did it. And I haven't read the full paper, but it's available, and maybe we'll provide a link to the paper because it's out there. Thanks, Beth. So, but one of the other things that's really important about this is the whole idea is taking the output of already existing models and distilling it down into and applying reasoning capabilities into smaller and smaller models that are then more efficient but equal and sort of at parity with the reasoning capabilities of the larger models. Reasoning is, in my opinion at this point, an emergent property of a large model. It's not necessarily something that requires strict instructions to achieve. It does happen just through the model's absorption of examples of human reasoning, for example, and other content. That's oversimplifying the question. But using that larger R1 model that they just released, as a teacher, they fine-tuned several smaller models ranging from 1.5 billion to 70 billion parameters. And the smaller distilled models significantly outperformed other models of similar sizes and even rivaled much larger models. And the tiny DeepSeek R1 outputs distilled into the tiny Qwen 1.5 billion parameter model beat 4.0 on math and code benchmarks. So this is a whole thread. Remember when we talked long ago about the evolutionary model merge method of getting to a very sophisticated and well-trained model?
Yep.
Well, that's a trickery, as I called it, an innovation in the approach to training models. Well, what DeepSeek's demonstrated is another such innovation in the way to train models that basically outmatches the process of heavy compute and enormous data sets that has brought us to the frontiers over here. So go forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary of what it is, and where I see this going, because we're already seeing it with like mini models and things like that, is look, these reasoning, these highly capable reasoning models are going to be available locally on devices. I mean, you can download them now and put them on maybe a well-performing laptop, but pretty quickly these things are going to be available on phones, tablets, and things like that. And so again, as my daughter prepares for high school in the next year, I see this as the types of models that are going to be used in education because of the reasoning capabilities. And I look at students being able to do brainstorming sessions and stuff like that. And I'm actually really bullish on the impact that what we're seeing today is going to have in the next 2, 3, 4 years, especially, well before she gets to college, which for her is 5 years out, so like, what does college look like if this is what we're already getting with these reasoning models at this cost, and where is the next?
By the way, DeepSeek was not the only reasoning model that was released by China, right? China also has released a Kimi 1.5, which is another new reasoning model that challenges O1 on multimodal capabilities. Now, and then we talked just a couple of days ago, I forget in which context, about Minimax. It's an Alibaba, Tencent backed startup, and they debuted new models, Minimax Text O1, and then also Minimax VL O1, which understands images and texts and rivals Claude Sonnet 3.5. Okay, very small model. The Chinese are really killing it right now. And this is possibly why Stargate came out. Stargate Schmargate, like $500 billion, comparable to the cost of building the entire interstate highway system in the United States. Okay, invested by the United States, with OpenAI taking the lead in managing the development, NVIDIA supplying the chips, and Masayoshi Son, the SoftBank executive, providing the funds somehow. But somebody, I think somebody from OpenAI, maybe even Sam Altman, said they don't really have the money yet. It's like they're just announcing this thing with Trump alongside yesterday.
Yeah.
And they're going to make this enormous investment to try to advance sort of U.S. supremacy in this race. And that's why it's a perfect counterpart to what we've just been talking about with the release of all of the various Chinese models.
Okay,
and also, go ahead,
two thoughts for that.
Yeah.
One is that they have 100 billion now, so it's 100 billion is funded. It's a $500 billion initiative. Isn't it fascinating that OpenAI is heading this and not Elon, right? Like that wasn't part of the assumption that
that
Musk. involvement, well, the Musk's involvement at the top level of the US government was going to benefit X, and he has a very famous feud dislike problem with OpenAI. So I find that interesting. The other
Sam
thing
Altman
about
called Elon Musk a bully.
yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah.
He referred to him as a bully. Let's talk a little bit
Because
more
you
about
never actually get out of kindergarten is the issue, right? Like we're just seeing that over and over and over again. But the
You're
other
right,
thing
though.
about
I'm surprised not to see Elon Musk more involved with this particular announcement, which I definitely want to talk more about here. But go ahead, Beth.
the other thing about the Chinese models release was that there was a story that the number 2, the premier, invited the head of DeepSeek to come and talk to him. Now, I'm not under the impression that anything happens in China without the knowledge and somewhat authority of the government. Like that just seems like that's how that works. But this was a very public thing, and it didn't come after V3. It came after the release of R1, right? So now we're seeing like, yeah, no, we're really interested. We want this government level of interest to be something that is publicly available and everybody knows. So
Let me just say that the Stargate initiative is about building data centers. That's the focus of it. And so they're going to start in Texas.
yeah.
Why Texas? Because not woke.
Yeah. Well, they've already started in Texas. So and also you guys didn't mention this. You're talking about the China side of it. Like we just had a show. You, Mandy, you, me, Aaron just talked about a blueprint for America that OpenAI put out, and read that and then look at the Stargate project and go, yeah, okay, like one came out before the other, but obviously these things were moved. Also, by the way, I did read that the Stargate project, whether it was by that name or not, actually had started, and this has nothing to do political, but actually goes back to like March of 2024 in the previous administration. I don't know that it necessarily had this internal title or whether we're talking about the project by this name or not. But regardless, so just to be really clear on what this is, I want to read it directly from OpenAI's blog about it. It says, because Microsoft not Microsoft, but Oracle has theirs and so on and so forth. But the Stargate project is a new company, that's important to know, which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years, building new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States. We will begin deploying $100 billion immediately. This infrastructure will secure American leadership in AI, create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, and generate massive economic benefit for the entire world. This project would not only support the reindustrialization of the United States, but also provide a strategic capability to protect the national security of America and its allies. The initial equity funders in Stargate are SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, and MGX. SoftBank and OpenAI are the leading partners for Stargate, with SoftBank having financial responsibility and OpenAI having operational responsibility. You said his name better than me, but Masayoshi-san will be the chairman. ARM, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Oracle, and OpenAI are the key initial technology partners. As part of Stargate, Oracle, NVIDIA, and OpenAI will closely collaborate and build this operation and operate this computing system. This builds on the deep collaboration between OpenAI and NVIDIA going back to 2016 and a new partnership between OpenAI and Oracle. And it goes on a little bit more there to talk about it. So really interesting. This to me falls very, very much in line with some of the stuff we're coming out of day one of the new administration and President Trump talking about, drill baby drill and stuff like that. And you can't talk about these data centers without talking about the power necessary to do it. Sam Altman has talked about this. This is not a political thing. Like the idea that despite maybe everybody's well wishes that renewable energy or nuclear would get there, nuclear is a long play. We don't have the ability, most likely in the States, to produce the amount of power as soon as we need it for these data centers without traditional methods of energy, aka oil and stuff like that. Now, this is me saying this. I'm not saying this is like whatever, but it does all line up for me when you read these individual stories. It all lines up, and you go, okay, yep, we're reducing restrictions on drilling, reinvesting in oil, taking out investments in renewable energies and things like that came up in in President Trump's speech. Okay. but that also does, we can't really say it doesn't directly impact in a positive way impact. I'm not talking about environmentally. I'm just talking about putting these data centers online and getting them built in multiple places around the country to do that. In fact, at the end of this blog, it says, we want to connect with firms across the built data center infrastructure landscape, which I always think is weird how they said that, from power to land to construction to equipment and everything in between. You can actually click on this link and then fill out a form talking about what your company does. So there's a direct link from that blog talking about it. So just wanted to give a little more context. Of course, this is from OpenAI's side of it, but that's basically the idea here. 500 billion over time, 100 billion to start, and they are already building in Texas.
I agree with you that things are kind of coming into focus now, and we understand how all these things are lining up. Let me just say that it's my opinion that the blueprint release was Sam Altman's desire to sort of assert in a PR way his thought leadership in this big project. He knew this was going on and it was going to be announced as soon as Trump was elected or inaugurated. So he wanted to get out in front of all of that and say, we're the ones driving the vision of how this is all going to work together. Now, Stargate, with a very big budget, is about the data centers, the energy aspect of that 4-pillar blueprint for AI in America. And I think they also changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico in order to align with that vision. So all of that. Okay.
Yeah, I just want an adjacent story to this because we did just talk about Microsoft. I want to talk about, I said at the top of the show, Microsoft and OpenAI renewed their vows because that's what it made me think of here. So Microsoft put out talking about, it was about Stargate. So we're thrilled to continue our strategic partnership with OpenAI and to partner on Stargate. Today announces that today's announcement is complementary to what our two companies have been working together since 2019. So this is interesting. I'm just going to read what it says here because there is a lot of talk about what is OpenAI? Oh, is this relationship strained? Or is it better? Is it worse? Ooh, are they competing, and making two similar products? So just listen to this because this is directly from Microsoft. The key elements of our partnership remain in place for the duration of our contract through 2030 with our access to OpenAI's IP, our revenue sharing arrangements, and our exclusivity on OpenAI's APIs, all continuing forward. Specifically, Microsoft has rights to OpenAI IP, inclusive of model and infrastructure for use within our products like Copilot. This means our customers have access to the best models for their needs. OpenAI API is exclusive to Azure. Running on Azure is also available through the Azure OpenAI service. This agreement means customers benefit from having access to leading models on Microsoft platforms. Okay, Microsoft and OpenAI have revenue sharing agreements that flow both ways, ensuring that both companies benefit from the increased use of new and existing models. And then finally, Microsoft remains a major investor in OpenAI, providing funding and capacity to support their advancements and in turn benefiting from their growth and valuation. Then it just says at the end here, in addition to this, OpenAI recently made a new large Azure commitment that will continue to support all OpenAI products as well as training. This new agreement also includes changes to the exclusivity on new capacity, moving to a model where Microsoft has the right of first refusal. And then it has a little bit more after that. So I think
having a right of first refusal basically makes it impossible unless Microsoft wants to allow them to go over somewhere else. Yeah, Microsoft certainly has the capabilities to deliver whatever compute they can muster.
Yep.
And Oracle would be an alternative for OpenAI, but that they have to, OpenAI can't go to Oracle and say, hey, let's do a deal. They have to first go to Microsoft and say, okay, we want to do a deal with Oracle. Here's the terms. Do you accept those terms or not? Right. Yep. So rights of first refusal basically eliminate any kind of competition. And this is a reflection of the tension that's been emerging between Sam Altman and Microsoft. And so anyway, one of the things that apparently pissed off Sam Altman about this was the hiring of Mustafa Suleyman at Microsoft as the head of their AI.
Really?
And so that's just the report. This angered Sam Altman that's who's running AI over at Microsoft, and there's some friction there.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously this is a public release, right? So this is publicly what I mean. There could be more infighting in between, but I think there's some things in here, some nuggets in here that I maybe wasn't aware of that's through 2030, because we've always heard about that until AGI is created, that kind of thing, that kind of verbiage. But this is actually like a definitive through 2030. And then you heard all the other things that go into it. I think it really shows that this is a two-way street. And though from publicly we might go, oh, well, they're building Copilot in. But they both gain from both sides of the street. And so OpenAI gets the money, but they're the people who create the research and the new advancements, which then Microsoft gets to use immediately. It's built on Microsoft Azure servers. Like it's very cohesive. It's a very it's good for both sides is what I'm trying to say.
There's some synergies there for sure. And Microsoft, I think, is the winner in that particular agreement. They invested $13 billion early on in the process, and they secured for themselves almost a perpetual ownership of the lucrative benefits of OpenAI's advanced
models.
And they'll support that. Yeah. I want to jump over quickly to one quick thing, which is that in this whole emerging clarity of vision of what's happening in this Stargate, Chinese competition, etc., Trump revoked Biden's 100-page executive order on AI safety standards, clearing the way. Yeah, like for remember when all the major thought leaders in AI were worrying about the advancements towards AGI and what the implications were for the planet, and said let's take a pause and put some safety standards in place. Well, those have all been wiped away now at this point. So it's just it's a race to the finish. Doesn't matter how aggressively or unethically you perform. It's just about getting to AGI first.
Yep, and they're posing that. I mean, Sam Altman laid the groundwork, not him specifically, OpenAI with the Blueprint for America laid the groundwork that this is about national security, which is a great PR switch to say, like, listen. If you're worried about the border, then you say, look, this is about security and this is about the cartels, right? Like you can make that switch and make the drug issue and national security, and you can combine those together because PR wise it makes sense. And this makes sense to me on this side as well, which is to say, look, this is about national security, and we're going to have to make some concessions. It may not be pretty. We're gonna have to drill, and we're gonna have to jump through some, jump over some EPA type stuff along the way. But look, this is a race to the moon, man. We can't be second. We cannot be second, And so this is now the big push. These AI companies, I would imagine, are licking their chops for this new administration because they are getting a paved path to that goal. And maybe we all benefit from that. Maybe who knows, maybe in 10, 15 years, we look back and say it was the best thing we could have done, even though as a country, we had to make concessions, environmentally, whatever the case may be. But now looking back, it was the best thing we ever did to secure, AGI or whatever the case is. The reality is, I don't know. I can't read the future. And so I don't know how this will go, but it's interesting nonetheless.
Well, the acceleration, right, there was always the balance between the accelerationists who said the best way to be safe is for everybody to race to the wall as quickly as possible because then it's open source. That seems to have won, even though it's the billionaire influencers that sort of pushed it in that direction. But it is true, right? If we look at Deep Seek coming out, we're no longer waiting 6 months for the next for open source to catch up to the proprietary model of availability or abilities. Now we're sort of seeing that get a little faster. In things that make Sam sad, the story came out. We still don't know what Mira Murati's company is named, but she did secure the first hires for her startup, including OpenAI's head of special projects, Jonathan Lockman, along 10 other key hires from leading AI firms. And reportedly, Sam is a little bummed about that. So
listen, I think we're just like Google and so many others, like we're going to see some of the early players that come out of OpenAI. I mean, like how many people can you trace back to the early days of Facebook or others where they said, "Oh, I was employee number 10," or
Right.
Google, same thing, or people working out of garages for Apple or Microsoft. Like
Right.
I think we'll see this over and over again where these become some of the major players. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see what she does.
Let me add to the things that make people sad, which is if you're a software engineer, this is something that will make you sad. Stripe has cut 3.5% of its workforce, mostly in product management, engineering, and IT operations. Why? Because AI is going to do those jobs going forward.
Yep.
And this is not in the context of Stripe having some difficulty financially. They are going to increase their headcount by 17% while removing all of these sort of technical positions, not all of them, but definitely downsizing that. And they're doing incredibly well. Their total payment volume, and it's still a private company, by the way, it's not a public company. Their total payment volume in 2023 was beyond $1 trillion. So you can imagine how much money is flowing into the coffers there. They could certainly afford to retrain, reskill, or otherwise redeploy those people, but instead they're cutting that technical staff.
Yeah. And I mean, this is just the beginning, right? We saw this with Goldman Sachs as well, but I think it's more from the customer service AI side of the house, and they're cutting or what they did was they're helping staff retrain it, but they've also said that there's the fear of people are training the AI and getting it prepped to take their job. And there's a lot of people who are probably feeling that way. I don't think anybody's necessarily safe from that unless you dig ditches. You got a pretty good shot of, robots not digging ditches for you and the technical trades and stuff like that. But for anybody that, like me, works on a computer and works from home and works remote, I mean, there's always that fear that, the things that I am actively working and building could one day also be the reason that I don't do this specific job. I'm kind of the person that says I've evolved and morphed my whole career, so that doesn't bother me because I flow like water, and I'll find the path that takes the least resistance. So it doesn't really bother me, but it wouldn't surprise me either if I had to continue to, shift and morph like everybody in order to continue to work with AI.
Well,
I want to bring up. Go ahead, Beth. Go ahead, and I'll bring
in that. So I'm going to preview tomorrow's show because tomorrow's show is on the job report that WEF put out.
Yeah.
And what, like the opposite of what we're talking about, or the other side of what we're talking about, is if your company retrains you, they may need to do more than just retrain you to keep you, because jobs may be reducing, but jobs with AI expertise, right? So like if you're retrained in how to use AI to make really great marketing decisions, that is something that is potentially really marketable, on the other side. So retrain your people because it's the right thing to do. And also maybe 4-day work week, because then no one will leave you ever.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I already work for a company that gives me unlimited PTO, and that matters. And I'm able to work 100% remote, and that matters. These things matter. So I agree with you, Beth. Like, retrain, keep the best people around. You can always train them how to do something different. In the meantime, don't wait for your company to train you on AI. I mean, if you're listening to the show, you're probably already here, but just in case you haven't really taken a dive, we have named tool after tool after tool that is completely free to you. We just did a whole show, not just a couple of days ago, talking about how far you can get on free AI. And in that show, go back and listen to it if you're looking for ideas. Tons of ways that you don't have to spend a dime, and you can be trained up and learn how to use AI and think with AI and all the good stuff that comes along with it. So, make sure that you're doing that. You're not waiting for your company to do it for you. That could end up being a miss. I want to bring up a quick, we're going to sort of speed up here, Andy, a little bit, but one that came out of the comments, and I apologize, I don't remember who made the suggestion because I'd have to scroll pretty far back at this point, but somebody mentioned this article, PhD level super agents. It says coming soon. Now, this is from Axios. Architects of the leading generative AI models are abuzz that a top company, possibly OpenAI, in coming weeks will announce a next level breakthrough that unleashes PhD level super agents who do complex human tasks. We've learned that OpenAI CEO Sam Altman By the way, when I started reading this, I had no idea this could be another OpenAI story. But all roads lead back, as you were pointing out to Beth. It's a whole adjacent stories to OpenAI. Anyway, in September, dubbed the intelligence age, and is in Washington this week for the inauguration. We know that. Why does this matter? The expected advancements help explain why Meta's Mark Zuckerberg and others have talked publicly about AI replacing mid-level software engineers, Andy, you were just talking about, and other human jobs this year, right in line with what we were just talking about. Probably in 2025, Zuckerberg said on Joe Rogan's show, we at Meta, as well as other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have AI that it can effectively be a sort of middle level engineer that you will have at your company and that can write code. Over time, we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps, and including the AI that we generate, is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers, he added. So this is actually more in line. This isn't even getting to the PhD level, but this is actually literally more in line with WF or what we'll be talking about tomorrow. So maybe just a tip of the cap to tomorrow's show. But really, really interesting information here. We'll have to find out. This was posted on 19th. This was posted 3 days ago, and they're saying possibly in the coming weeks. So we'll have to report back on that. I know Sam Altman's already talked about O3 Mini coming out. So that's in the next few weeks. So maybe that's what this is.
A year where we're going to see, a flood of agentic capabilities delivered to AI. And what we mean by that is much more competent AI approximating the kinds of mid-level skills that human workers can produce. So I wanted to jump over now, if I may, to a couple of the lighter subjects.
Yeah.
One is we did a show just a couple days ago, I think maybe. Yeah, 2 days. On Monday, we talked about all of the devices that are companion to AI. Yeah. And we talked about all the glasses. Well, Meta is the leader in some respects with their Ray-Ban Meta glasses and Meta AI built into those glasses. But they've just announced that they're going to work with Oakley for a set of smart glasses specifically for athletes. And I'm not sure what the features and functions of that would be, but maybe it, golfers have a thing that they can point and say exactly how many yards there's. Maybe javelin throwers with their, Oakley glasses on will be able to throw a javelin and know exactly how far it went.
I was thinking, honestly, not that route, like not the AI in it. It's just that they're glasses that are sweat resistant, that have stronger glass in them. These are the typical things that Oakley has already been doing for years upon years. And you get like the titanium frames and the stronger glasses. You have to be really careful about shatter resistant lenses if you're athletes.
So you're thinking that it'll be exactly the same features and functions as the Meta Ray-Bans, but it'll just be in a different frame.
Yeah, they even talked about cameras on earbuds, and I was trying to figure out why you would need that. Like, what do you say? What is he doing? What is he doing? Hold on. What is he doing?
I would have thought that Oakley would want to have something that was purpose built for athletes, not just the frame, but also something Meta would develop for them. But who knows? Maybe so. It's just recently announced.
It's funny that you and I both thought of it two different ways, though. I was like, oh yeah, like sweat proof and waterproof and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff for the complex stuff inside. Maybe longer batteries because out in the fields and athletics or whatever. I've been like pretty much a lifelong Oakley sunglass wearer, so I do love the frames by Ray-Ban. I would not get those, but I'm actually personally excited about the Oakley announcement because with what Meta is potentially saying may be coming up in the end of the year, I would love to see those released on some Meta frames. So, I'm sorry, for some Oakley frames. So exciting for me, at least for
more choice with the Meta design glasses. The other thing I wanted to mention is that on this show, we talk a lot about HeyGen and 11 Labs as, the sort of the leaders in the cloning and representation of avatars in marketing interactions and for videos, also for representing customer support on telephone exchanges and so on. Well, I saw this in the news, which is that Synthesia, which is also an avatar builder, raised $180 million last week and says that 60% of the Fortune 100 enterprises use their AI avatars for internal and external communications. So while we don't talk a lot about Synthesia, they're really probably the economic leader in that AI avatar generation space.
Yeah. I only have, well, I want to bring up a comment from the comments really quick. And then I have one other story and then I'm good unless you have anything else, Beth or Andy. I just want to bring up that CJ, who's always, thank you, CJ, for being our comments and giving good feedback on what you're working on. But CJ Styles just said, as a retired pro skateboarder, I go tour the Oakley facility and it's amazing and it's in California. First of all, CJ, I can't wait to hear more about your background because of all the stuff you do in AI, but now you're a retired pro skateboarder. I mean, I was born in 78, so I grew up through the era of Tony Hawk and all those things. I was never a skateboarder other than in my driveway trying to do cool stuff, right? But definitely grew up through that era and stuff like that. So just a cool comment. And next time I'm out in California, I would definitely go see the Oakley facility. Last thing I wanted to mention really quick was just Mistral. Mistral had two sort of announcements coming out. One was just a topic from saying it's not for sale. The CEO made a comment that said like Mistral isn't for sale. And in fact, we're growing and we're doing more funding and stuff like that. That was kind of all of that. And then this other one, just really quick, is Mistral signs deal with AFP to offer up-to-date answers in LeChat. So LeChat is that's Mistral's chatbot, and AFP is Agence France Presse, AFP. And is to help them improve the accuracy of the answers. So it sounds very similar to what we see some of the American companies do in terms of partnering or making deals with Associated Press or New York Times or Washington Post or whatever it is, in order to have the rights to bring that into the search results. And so similar, but we talk about Mistral from time to time, but it's cool to see that they continue to grow. I know they're a really proud success story in France, so interesting to see what they have going forward. But just want to bring that up really quick. But other than that, if we miss anything, we could certainly talk about it on Friday's show, which is when we do our recap. But real quick, Beth or Andy, did you have any last ones? Nope, all good. Okay, fantastic. So we'll wrap it up there. Like Beth was saying, tomorrow we are going to be talking about the World Economic Forum's recently came out in the last 2 weeks talking about job growth, AI, how things are shifting. We're just going to dive into that and have a great conversation about it. On Friday, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing our 2-week recap show. That gives us an opportunity to hit any news stories we missed, or sometimes news changes between Wednesday and Friday of that week, and it gives us an opportunity to do that as well. So we have covered all sorts of amazing topics over the last week. Tons have changed in the world of AI, especially with things going on in the States and new administration. So there'll be much more to talk about on Friday. I believe Carl will be back. So it should be a really great show. So go check out the Daily Ed Show if you get a chance. Don't forget about our newsletter. This week, there's going to be definitely some more stuff in the newsletter that just has not made it to the live shows. We just simply haven't had the time. So sign up for the newsletter if you want to get all the other goodness in there. Also, if you want to see a picture of me and Carl together for the very first time, we met in person this last week, and I will post that picture in the newsletter as well. It's the first official, we've mentioned this is the first official time any of us have met in person. So that was actually super cool to do. All right, that's it. We'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Wednesday. Thank you to everybody in the comments and for your suggestions and conversation. Nice to see you, Beth. I'm glad you're here. I know you're in and out, but we'll have you back full time next week as well. And we'll have more of the crew back. So it'll be a lot of fun. That's it. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.